Behind the bright lights of British cinema from the 1960s to the 1990s lay a dark reality. 10 beloved stars gave their physical health for our entertainment, only to be broken on set and thrown onto the streets without a single penny. The rich studios simply abandoned them. Who were these forgotten victims of show business, and how did they endure such betrayal? Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss our dramatic investigations. The truth will shock you. Roy Kinnear. A magnificent gallop across a dusty Spanish plain in 1988 was supposed to be a triumph for a beloved comedic talent. The atmosphere on the set of a major historical adventure was tense, with schedules running severely behind and directors rushing every scene. The production crew neglected basic safety protocols, forcing performers to undertake hazardous actions with little to no preparation. The pressure mounted, leading to a catastrophic failure of duty toward the cast. Mounting a horse that day, the celebrated actor expressed deep reservations about his riding abilities. The ground was notoriously uneven, and the animals were visibly agitated by the chaos of the massive film crew. Despite these glaring red flags, the director insisted on capturing the perfect shot without allowing for proper stunt coordination. It was a fatal misjudgment that prioritized a fleeting cinematic moment over the fundamental well-being of a dedicated and loyal professional. During the chaotic sequence, the horse suddenly slipped, throwing the performer violently to the hard earth. He sustained catastrophic fractures to his pelvis and was immediately rushed to a local medical facility that was ill-equipped to handle such complex trauma. The frantic rush to save him proved futile, and just one day later, his heart gave out under the immense physical shock. The bright light of his career was abruptly extinguished in an instant, leaving his loved ones devastated. The aftermath revealed the true cruelty of the cinematic machine. Instead of stepping up to support the grieving widow and her 3 children, the production company immediately distanced itself from the tragedy. They denied any liability, forcing the devastated family into a brutal legal battle that dragged on for many agonizing years. The very industry he had dedicated his life to abruptly abandoned his dependents, leaving them to face financial ruin while mourning their immense loss. It took enormous resilience and endless court appearances for the family to finally secure a basic settlement long after the film had premiered. The executives who rushed the production faced zero personal consequences, hiding behind corporate lawyers and ironclad contracts. This heartbreaking case exposed the glaring lack of protection for vulnerable performers in the late 20th century, proving that even the most cherished stars were viewed as entirely expendable commodities on set. Sophie Aldred. Plunging into freezing depths should have been just another day at the office for a young television companion in 1989. The set of the iconic British science fiction series was notoriously demanding, constantly stretching tight budgets and pushing performers to their absolute physical limits. Prop masters constructed an improvised glass tank for a crucial scene, completely underestimating the immense pressure of the liquid inside. Safety checks were minimal at best, and the actress was expected to endure extreme conditions without asking any questions. Submerged in the murky water, she valiantly performed her challenging scenes, completely unaware that the fragile structure around her was on the verge of a catastrophic failure. Suddenly, a terrifying sound echoed through the dark studio as the heavy glass shattered under the immense strain. A torrential wave of sharp shards and icy liquid violently swept her across the concrete floor. The sheer force of the sudden rupture was so immense that it could have easily ended her life right then and there, leaving the crew frozen in pure horror. While a quick-thinking co-star immediately rushed to pull her from the hazardous wreckage, the response from the higher-ups was shockingly cold. Instead of halting production to ensure her physical and psychological recovery, the directors simply demanded that the dangerous mess be quickly swept away. She was left bleeding and deeply traumatized, holding her lacerated hands, yet the relentless filming schedule remained the absolute priority. The high human cost of the immensely popular show was completely ignored by the creators. Following the terrifying ordeal, the powerful broadcasting corporation made a concentrated effort to sweep the near tragedy completely under the rug. No formal safety investigation was ever launched, and the brave young woman received zero psychological support to process the deep emotional trauma. She was expected to just put on a brave face and return to work the next morning, carrying the heavy burden of the terrifying incident entirely on her own fragile shoulders. The studio successfully shielded themselves from any real accountability. This chilling negligence left a permanent mark on her soul, proving that even the most beloved faces on television were completely unprotected by their employers. The executives cared only about their strict deadlines and high ratings, ultimately viewing their talented cast members as easily replaceable props. Although she eventually healed from her physical wounds, the emotional scars of being abandoned by the very institution she served remained a bitter reminder of the dark and unforgiving side of 1980s British broadcasting. Rocky Taylor. Flames roared with an unnatural ferocity on a freezing London night in 1985, setting the stage for a catastrophic betrayal. A veteran performer, known for his fearless dedication to the craft, stood on the edge of a burning set constructed for a major action blockbuster. The special effects team had utilized highly volatile materials to create a spectacular inferno, pushing the boundaries of on-set pyrotechnics. Tension hung thick in the smoky air as the director called for the ultimate sequence to begin. Leaping through the blinding fire, he executed the complicated maneuver exactly as rehearsed, expecting to land securely on the prepared safety rigs. However, the immense heat had secretly compromised the structural integrity of the surrounding scenery. Mid-flight, the wooden supports violently collapsed, instantly turning a controlled environment into a terrible trap. He plummeted towards the concrete ground below, striking the unforgiving surface with a sickening impact that completely shattered his spine and pelvis. As the critically injured professional lay agonizingly motionless amidst the burning debris, the immediate reaction of the production executives was not one of compassion, but of cold calculation. He was hastily transported to a local hospital, where doctors delivered the grim news of long-term physical impairment. Instead of offering comprehensive medical support, the powerful studio behind the picture quickly distanced itself, exploiting legal loopholes to avoid accepting any direct responsibility for the devastating accident. The financial ruin that followed was as agonizing as the physical pain he endured during countless months of difficult rehabilitation. With mounting hospital bills and no steady income, the once celebrated professional found himself entirely abandoned by the glamorous industry he had bravely served for decades. The wealthy producers flatly refused to cover his extensive medical expenses, coldly discarding him like a broken piece of cheap equipment the moment he was no longer useful to their lucrative cinematic project. Forced to rebuild his broken body and shattered life entirely on his own, he faced a bleak and lonely struggle for everyday survival. He had to rely on the charity of close friends and sheer willpower to avoid ending up completely destitute on the unforgiving streets. The glaring injustice of his situation served as a grim testament to the harsh realities of the cinematic business, where loyalty meant absolutely nothing when profit margins and corporate liabilities were suddenly on the line. Derek Martin. A seemingly simple stunt on a gritty crime drama set turned into an absolute living nightmare during the late 1970s. The incredibly demanding schedule of British television allowed absolutely zero room for error, consistently pushing actors to perform their own dangerous sequences just to save precious time and corporate money. While filming an intensely physical chase scene across a treacherous, rain-soaked construction site, the atmosphere was electric, but dangerously rushed by impatient producers. Throwing himself wholeheartedly into the demanding sequence, The dedicated performer tragically tripped over an unsecured piece of heavy steel scaffolding that the rushing crew had carelessly left completely hidden in the dark shadows. The brutal fall sent him crashing violently down a steep, unforgiving concrete staircase. The sickening sound of snapping bones echoed loudly across the shocked set. He suffered severe fractures to his collarbone and multiple ribs, instantly rendering him completely immobile and desperately struggling for every single agonizing breath. Rather than permanently halting the massive production to ensure his safe medical recovery, the callous directors simply filmed around the severely injured man before hastily shipping him off to an understaffed local clinic. Once the immediate shock of the terrible accident finally wore off, the brutal reality of his grim situation quickly set in. He was firmly informed by a junior assistant that his demanding role would be immediately recast. The wealthy studio executives showed a total lack of basic human decency, instantly cutting off his vital weekly paycheck. The agonizingly slow physical recovery was drastically overshadowed by the crushing weight of sudden, inescapable financial ruin. Completely unable to work for several long years, due to his severe physical limitations and constant debilitating pain, he rapidly depleted his incredibly meager life savings. The glamorous colleagues who once smiled warmly at him during glamorous press events suddenly vanished into thin air, leaving him entirely alone to face the terrifying, very real threat of losing his modest family home and ending up completely destitute. His desperate pleas for basic financial assistance from his former employers were met with deafening, cruel silence by the wealthy broadcasting corporation. They successfully shielded themselves behind strict freelance contracts, legally abandoning a loyal man who had broken his own body for their massive entertainment empire. It was a deeply bleak period of absolute despair, proving once again that behind the bright glitz and sparkling glamour, the television industry viewed its talented stars as completely disposable assets. Tipping. The adrenaline-fueled world of late 20th century action entertainment demanded absolute perfection, yet offered absolutely zero safety net for its bravest soldiers. A highly respected professional, known for pushing the physical limits, found himself repeatedly putting his well-being on the line for major British television broadcasts. Directors constantly demanded more spectacular visuals, completely disregarding the cumulative toll these extreme activities took on the human body over many long years. Despite his unwavering dedication to crafting breathtaking cinematic moments, the harsh reality behind the scenes was one of constant exploitation. Whenever a complicated sequence resulted in torn muscles or shattered bones, the wealthy production companies immediately looked the other way. He was forced to finance his own extensive medical treatments and painful rehabilitation sessions out of his personal pocket, steadily draining his hard-earned savings just to remain viable in the ruthless industry. The brutal physical demands inevitably began to compound, leaving him battling chronic pain and severely restricted mobility. Instead of recognizing his massive contributions to their highly profitable franchises, the studio executives started labeling him as a financial liability. His phone gradually stopped ringing, and the very people who once praised his fearless nature coldly wrote him off. The brilliant performer was pushed to the absolute margins of the business he had literally bled to build. Desperation slowly crept in as he tried to maintain his livelihood without the vital support of the major networks. He was ultimately forced to accept increasingly dangerous, poorly regulated independent assignments just to keep food on the table. The tragic finale of his incredible journey occurred during a fateful aerial sequence in 1993, when a catastrophic equipment failure led to an irreversible outcome. The industry had essentially driven him to the very edge of survival. Following the devastating incident that abruptly concluded his journey, the powerful entertainment corporations offered nothing but empty public relations statements. No meaningful financial support was ever extended to his grieving loved ones, who were left to navigate a mountain of unpaid medical debts entirely alone. His legacy serves as a profoundly heartbreaking reminder of the disposable nature of those who risked everything to create the thrilling illusions we consume from the safety of our homes. Alf Joint. The golden age of classic espionage cinema was built upon the shattered bones of invisible heroes, whose names never graced the glittering marquees. During the late 1960s, one highly respected double stood at the absolute pinnacle of his demanding profession. He flawlessly executed the incredibly perilous leaps and furious hand-to-hand combat sequences that made leading men look like immortal gods on the silver screen. Yet, behind the scenes, the pressure to deliver perfectly timed thrills was immense and dangerously unregulated. A seemingly straightforward high fall for a major international blockbuster quickly transformed into a life-altering catastrophe. Stationed on a towering platform, he leaped into the empty void exactly as the demanding director instructed. Tragically, the rudimentary landing equipment below was severely miscalculated by the rushing production crew. He struck the unforgiving surface with a terrifying force, immediately suffering a devastating injury to his lower spine that left him gasping in unimaginable agony, while the cameras coldly rolled on. Instead of rushing to provide comprehensive medical care for the man who had just risked his future for their picture, the studio executives acted with ruthless efficiency. The injured professional was swiftly removed from the busy set, and a younger, healthier replacement was brought in before the sun even set. There were no emotional farewells or promises of corporate support, only the cold realization that he was entirely expendable. The massive production simply moved forward, leaving him paralyzed by deep physical and emotional shock. The true depth of the betrayal became agonizingly clear in the grueling months that followed. When he attempted to claim basic workplace compensation, he discovered that the wealthy producers had cleverly classified him as an independent contractor, completely stripping him of any standard insurance protections. The corporate entity categorically refused to pay for his complex spinal treatments or his extensive physical therapy. His lifelong dedication to the cinematic craft was rewarded with a mountain of insurmountable medical debt. Stripped of his physical prowess and his primary livelihood, he faced an incredibly dark and isolated future. The thriving entertainment industry completely turned its back on one of its finest anonymous warriors, denying him even the most basic retirement pension. He spent his remaining years battling severe physical limitations and grinding poverty, entirely forgotten by the multi-million-dollar franchises he helped build. His heartbreaking story remains a stark warning about the viciously unforgiving nature of classic 20th century show business. Richard Graydon. Suspended high above the ground on the set of a globally renowned espionage franchise, a true master of physical performance prepared for a breathtaking sequence. The late 20th century demanded increasingly spectacular practical effects, pushing dedicated professionals to the absolute brink of human endurance. Wind whipped around the towering structure as the director called for action, demanding absolute perfection. There was no room for hesitation, only the cold reality of a highly dangerous maneuver that required absolute precision. Execution of the daring slide seemed flawless initially, but a critical mechanical failure suddenly altered his trajectory. A supposedly secure cable snapped under the immense tension, violently throwing the performer into a terrifying freefall toward the unforgiving terrain below. The heavy impact was absolutely devastating, causing massive physical trauma that left the crew completely paralyzed in silent shock. He lay broken on the cold ground, sacrificing his health for a brief cinematic moment that would soon become his worst nightmare. Instead of immediately halting production to ensure the absolute best medical care, the wealthy studio executives prioritized their incredibly tight filming schedule. He was quietly rushed to a local medical facility, while the massive production simply moved on without missing a single beat. The powerful producers who had just praised his unmatched courage suddenly became completely unreachable, hiding securely behind layers of corporate lawyers. He was left entirely alone to face the terrifying prospect of permanent physical impairment. When the agonizing initial recovery phase finally concluded, the grim reality of his new life set in with crushing weight. Reaching out to the legendary franchise for basic financial assistance, he received nothing but a coldly drafted legal letter officially terminating his employment. The multi-million-dollar empire categorically refused to acknowledge any responsibility for the catastrophic equipment failure. The loyal performer, who had risked everything, was ruthlessly discarded, completely stripped of his professional dignity and his income. The remainder of his journey was spent navigating a deep landscape of chronic pain and severe financial instability. Without the protection of a comprehensive pension, he was forced to rely entirely on his rapidly dwindling personal savings to cover endless medical treatments. His profound tragedy perfectly illustrates the dark, hidden cost of our favorite action sequences. The glamorous world of classic spy cinema chewed up its bravest contributors, leaving them completely abandoned in the cold shadows, far away from the bright premiere lights. Sue Lloyd. A glamorous presence on British television screens during the 1970s, this remarkable actress was celebrated for her elegance and commanding performances. Yet beneath the polished surface of popular serialized dramas, the working conditions were often shockingly inadequate. While filming a physically demanding sequence for a highly rated television series, the production team completely bypassed standard safety protocols. The lack of basic insurance coverage was a guarded industry secret, leaving performers entirely vulnerable. The crucial scene required a sudden, jarring movement that should have been carefully choreographed by professional stunt coordinators. Instead, the demanding director insisted she perform the action herself to capture a more authentic reaction for the camera. Without proper guidance or any protective rigging, the sudden physical exertion resulted in a catastrophic spinal trauma. A sickening sound echoed through the studio, instantly replacing the fictional drama with a real catastrophe. She collapsed in immense pain, entirely unable to stand. The immediate response from the wealthy television network was characterized by breathtaking callousness. She was hastily transported to a local hospital, but the cameras barely paused before a rapid rewrite completely erased her character from the storyline. Studio executives, terrified of financial liability, quickly invoked obscure clauses in her contract to deny any responsibility for the horrific accident. They coldly highlighted the absolute absence of a formal insurance policy, abandoning their celebrated leading lady to her agonizing recovery. The severe physical damage permanently derailed her once thriving acting journey. Chronic back pain and significantly reduced mobility made it absolutely impossible for her to withstand the grueling schedules of broadcast television ever again. As the medical bills for her extensive rehabilitation began to steadily mount, her regular paychecks completely vanished. The glamorous world that had once adored her elegance simply moved on, replacing her with younger talent while she was quietly relegated to the dark shadows of the ruthless entertainment business. Her final years in the industry were marked by a desperate struggle against mounting financial ruin and profound professional oblivion. Stripped of her primary income and entirely ignored by former corporate employers, she watched her hard-earned savings entirely vanish. The dazzling fame she had rightfully achieved was ultimately overshadowed by the deep injustice of her unassisted recovery. It is a chilling reminder that even the brightest television stars were often treated as highly disposable assets, discarded the moment they became inconvenient to producers. Fraser Hines. Stepping onto the rugged terrain of a wildly popular science fiction adventure series during the late 1960s, This energetic young talent quickly captured the hearts of millions. His dynamic character was constantly thrust into thrilling, action-packed scenarios, running through treacherous landscapes and battling imaginative foes week after week. The rigorous physical demands were immense, yet the broadcasting network provided virtually no specialized training or dedicated stunt coordinators to ensure his personal safety. During the chaotic filming of a particularly strenuous chase sequence over highly uneven ground, disaster struck without any warning. The ambitious director insisted on multiple rapid takes to capture the perfect dynamic angle, completely ignoring the visible exhaustion of the dedicated cast. In a split second of miscalculation, his foot caught awkwardly in a hidden depression, resulting in a terrifying, unnatural twist of his leg.
A sickening pop echoed across the silent set as he collapsed in blinding agony, his knee joint catastrophically damaged. Rather than permanently halting the massive television production to secure proper medical attention, the callous crew merely offered him a brief moment to catch his breath before pressuring him back in front of the rolling cameras. He bravely finished the grueling day in absolute misery, heavily limping through his remaining scenes. When the full, devastating extent of the complex knee trauma was finally diagnosed by independent doctors, the wealthy television network immediately washed their hands of any legal or moral responsibility. The intricate surgical procedures required to repair his shattered joint were astronomically expensive. Yet his corporate employers adamantly refused to contribute a single penny toward his extensive medical bills. They ruthlessly pointed to the rigid clauses in his standard contract, leaving him entirely alone to face the terrifying prospect of permanent physical limitation. Unable to walk properly or perform the energetic physical roles that had defined his early career, his once steady stream of lucrative acting opportunities rapidly dried up. Plunged into deep, inescapable financial debt just to cover the basic costs of his agonizing physical rehabilitation, the beloved television icon experienced a profound personal nightmare. The glittering world of British broadcasting entirely turned its back on the loyal young man who had sacrificed his physical foundation for their massive ratings. He was forced to endure a lifetime of chronic discomfort and severe financial anxiety, a tragic testament to the dark, unforgiving machinery hiding behind our favorite classic adventures. Ian Hendry. The relentless grind of the British film and television machine during the 1960s consumed talent at a terrifying pace. Once celebrated as one of the most brilliant leading men of his generation, this phenomenal artist carried the heavy weight of entire franchises on his shoulders. The grueling production schedules demanded incredibly long hours, completely blurring the line between his intense on-screen personas and his rapidly deteriorating physical reality. The absolute lack of basic rest slowly destroyed his core. To cope with the immense pressure and a series of untreated physical injuries sustained on various poorly regulated sets, he sadly turned to highly destructive personal habits. Instead of recognizing his obvious internal struggles and providing the essential medical support he desperately needed, the wealthy studio executives simply pushed him much harder. They mercilessly squeezed every last ounce of raw charisma and energy out of his failing body, completely ignoring the clear warning signs of his profound exhaustion. As his physical health began to seriously fail under the immense strain, and his daily reliability was unfairly called into question, the very industry that had endlessly exploited his immense talent abruptly turned its back. The powerful producers who once fought to secure his signature on highly lucrative contracts suddenly treated him like an absolute outcast. He was unceremoniously dropped from major projects, completely blacklisted by the exact same hypocritical executives who had enabled his downward spiral. Stripped of his regular broadcasting income and facing a massive mountain of insurmountable financial debt, the former golden boy of British entertainment was rapidly pushed toward the unforgiving streets. The massive cinematic empire he had proudly helped build offered absolutely zero financial safety nets.
completely denying him any form of a standard pension. He watched in absolute horror as his remaining wealth was entirely swallowed by crippling living expenses, leaving him in a state of sheer destitution. His final days were spent in absolute obscurity and profound poverty. A deeply tragic end for a phenomenal man who had once effortlessly captivated millions of devoted viewers. He ultimately passed away with virtually nothing to his once famous name, entirely abandoned by the glittering business that had completely broken his creative spirit and his physical form. The heartbreaking loss of such a magnificent performer serves as the ultimate dark warning about the true, devastating cost of pursuing television stardom.